they have tried. I want to say that first before we go anywhere else, because I think the trying is actually the most important part of this reading. The trying tells you something that the feeling alone would not tell you. The trying tells you that this person is aware enough of the feeling, conscious enough of what it is and what it means to have made the active decision that it should be managed, contained, redirected, or in some way not allowed to express itself freely in the direction of you. They have brought intention to the project of not feeling what they feel, or not showing what they feel, or not being defined by what they feel in the specific ways that might make it visible, and none of it has worked. Not because the trying wasn't genuine, but because there is a specific quality of genuine feeling, the kind that has established itself at the foundational level of a person's interior rather than at the surface level where intentions can reach it and redirect it, that simply does not respond to attempts at management. It continues, it surfaces, it finds its way into expression regardless of what the person who is carrying it would prefer, because it is not being carried at the level where preferences operate. It is being carried at a level below that. That level is where this person's love for you lives. And what the reading today is going to walk you through is both the nature of what they have been trying to do and why the trying has been unsuccessful, and what the unsuccessful trying tells you about the quality and the depth of what exists in this person that they have been trying without success to bury. Let me describe what I felt the moment this energy opened, because the initial impressions were immediate and they had a quality that I want to share before anything else. I felt the specific quality of something that keeps returning regardless of what is done to interrupt its return, not the dramatic, volcanic quality of a feeling that overwhelms through sheer force. The quieter, more relentless quality of something that has established itself so thoroughly in the structure of a person's experience that its presence is simply always there, always available, always rising back to the surface regardless of what has been placed over it to hold it down. I also felt the particular quality of frustrated effort, the specific, slightly exhausted quality of someone who has been trying to manage something and who keeps finding that the management is temporary at best. Not the peace of someone who has genuinely redirected, the effortful, recurring quality of someone who has to keep trying because the previous attempt keeps running out of effectiveness. That is what has been happening in this person in relation to you. Continuous effort, continuous recurrence of what the effort was trying to address, an endless cycle that has not resolved in the direction of the trying. The first card in this reading arrived in the position representing what this person has actually been trying to do, the specific strategy they have been employing in the project of managing or containing what they feel for you. And I want to describe it carefully because understanding the strategy is part of understanding the magnitude of what the strategy has failed against. This card shows a figure using mental effort to hold something at bay with swords in the imagery of willpower and the deliberate application of the mind's capacity for control and direction and the overriding of more immediate impulse. This is the card of someone actively, cognitively, intentionally attempting to direct the quality of their own experience, of someone who has decided that what they feel requires management and who has been bringing the full force of their considerable mental capacity to bear on that management project. What I am reading in this card about what this person has been trying to do is something I want to name specifically. They have been reasoning against the feeling, using the mind's capacity for analysis and for the identification of reasons and for the construction of alternative frameworks to try to reduce the feeling to something more manageable, more proportionate, more responsive to the logic of why it should be less than it is. They have been telling themselves things, probably things that are not entirely false, in the way that the reasons we construct to manage our feelings are rarely entirely invented. There are genuine complexities in the situation, genuine reasons why the feeling might be inconvenient or ill-timed or complicated to act on. And they have been amplifying those genuine complexities, using them as the specific cognitive tool by which they have been trying to keep the feeling from running its natural course. And then the feeling runs its natural course anyway, because the feeling is not housed in the part of them where the reasoning happens. The second card arrived in the position representing what keeps happening despite the trying, the specific recurring experience of the love breaking through the management and reasserting itself. And this card is the heart of why this reading carries the title it carries. This card shows a single cup held aloft, with water flowing from it freely in multiple directions, and a dove descending toward it. The imagery of something offering itself that is simply too full and too pure and too genuine to be held back. This is the card of the undiluted, uncompromised cup of feeling in its most sincere and most fundamental form, before negotiation, before complication, before any of the strategies that people apply to feelings that are inconvenient have had any effect on the original quality of the thing itself. What I am reading in this card is something I want to say with care, because I think it is the most important thing in this entire reading. The love this person has for you has not been altered by the trying, not reduced, not redirected, not replaced by something more manageable. When it breaks through the management and reasserts itself, which it does repeatedly, consistently, inevitably, what asserts itself is the original, unaltered, undiluted quality of what was always there. This is significant because one of the effects of sustained effort to manage a feeling is that the feeling sometimes does change over time. It becomes layered with the effort. It becomes complicated by the resistance. It can take on a quality of the trying itself rather than remaining the pure original. But that is not what this card is showing me. What is surfacing when the management fails is not a complicated, effort-marked version of the feeling. It is the original, clean, full, genuine, as it has always been. Does this feel like it is pointing towards someone specific, Virgo? The particular quality of someone whose feeling for you keeps surfacing despite what appears to be a genuine, recurring effort to keep it from surfacing? Let me know in the comments. The third card arrived in the position representing why the trying has been fundamentally unable to succeed, the specific reason that the management strategy keeps running up against its own limits. And this is the card that illuminates the structure of the whole situation. This card shows a great wheel in its turning, the ascending and descending figures, the Sphinx at the apex, governing the whole mechanism with the impartial awareness of something that simply is what it is, regardless of anyone's preferences about it. This is the card of what is structurally, fundamentally, at the level of underlying reality rather than surface circumstance true. What I am reading in this card about why the trying cannot succeed is something I want to say directly. The love this person has for you is not a circumstantial response to specific circumstances that could be altered by changing the circumstances. It is structural. It belongs to the wheel's level of reality rather than to the level of daily circumstance and deliberate decision making. The wheel does not respond to attempts to redirect it through cognitive effort. It turns according to what has been set in motion at a much deeper level than the level where intentions operate. I also want to speak to something this card reveals about how long this has been true and how long it is likely to remain true. The wheel's energy, once it has established something at the foundational level of a person's experience, does not reverse simply because the person would prefer it to what is structural endures. What has been set in motion at this level continues. The trying is like trying to redirect a river with a deliberate thought. The thought is genuine. The river continues. I want to go one layer deeper into what this card is showing me about the specific mechanism of why the trying keeps failing, because I think understanding it changes how you hold the whole situation. The management strategy this person has been employing, the cognitive reasoning-based approach to reducing or containing what they feel, operates at a level of the mind that is simply not where the feeling lives. It is like trying to perform surgery with a tool designed for a different purpose. The tool is real and genuinely functional in its actual domain. It is simply not the right tool for this particular task. The feeling is in the body, in the structure of their experience, in the specific quality of their nervous system's response to the thought of you, to your presence, to anything that belongs to the same interior neighborhood as you. And no amount of cognitive reasoning is going to reach that level and make the adjustments there that would be required for the management to actually succeed. This is not a character failing in them. It is simply the nature of genuine feeling versus the nature of cognitive management. Genuine feeling at the depth this card is pointing toward is simply not subject to the kind of control that the management strategy is attempting to exercise over it. And that specific relationship between the depth of the feeling and the inadequacy of the management strategy is what has been producing the recurring failure that the reading's title is about. Inhale with me, Virgo. Because the fourth card carries something specific for you, not just about the other person, but about what you are specifically owed in terms of understanding your own position. This card shows a crowned figure at the pinnacle of the water element's expression, completely self-possessed, utterly grounded in their own knowing, carrying the full quality of someone who has arrived at the most complete expression of what genuine emotional depth and emotional intelligence produce. This is not someone who requires anything from outside themselves to know what they know and to carry what they carry with the specific settled quality of someone who is simply who they are without apology or performance. And this card in this position is describing you. What I am reading in this card is not flattery. It is a specific, accurate description of the quality that has made it impossible for this person to bury what they feel about you. The irreplaceable quality of you, the specific combination of depth and precision and genuine warmth, and the particular way that all of those things exist together in one person, is what the cup that keeps asserting itself is full of. Not a fantasy of you, not an idealized version, the actual, real, specific quality of you as you actually are. That quality cannot be buried because it is not a construct that can be deconstructed. It is a real thing in the world. It exists, and the experience of having genuinely encountered it at the level where genuine encounters happen does not simply dissolve because the person who had the encounter would find it more convenient if it did. I want to address something about what this situation, someone trying and failing to bury their love for you, actually tells you about both of them and about the nature of what you are dealing with. There are two common reasons people try to manage or contain genuine love for someone. The first is that the love is inconvenient given other commitments or circumstances. The second is that the love feels large enough and genuine enough to be frightening, to produce a specific quality of exposure and vulnerability that is more comfortable to manage than to simply surrender to. I am sensing, based on the full picture the cards are providing today, that what is driving the trying in this specific situation is primarily the second category. The size of the feeling is what makes it frightening. When you feel something at the level where the wheel lives, at the foundational rather than the surface level, the prospect of expressing it, of bringing it into the shared space between you and the person it is about, carries a specific quality of irreversibility. You cannot take back a declaration that size. You cannot retreat from a vulnerability that exposed. And so the management strategy becomes a way of holding the feeling at the level of private truth without crossing the threshold into shared expression. But the management strategy is failing repeatedly, and each failure is the feeling showing in the most honest possible way how large it actually is. The fifth card arrived in the position of what this unbearable love is building toward, where all of this trying and failing and trying again is eventually going to carry things, and I want to describe it with the fullness it deserves. This card shows two figures in genuine, mutual, completely inhabited celebration inside a wreath of completion, with the quality of something that has moved through its entire necessary arc and arrived at the specific, embodied, fully real experience of what it was always moving toward. This is the card of emotional arrival in its most complete form, the fullness of something that has come through every stage of its journey and is now simply, fully, undeniably here. What I am sensing this card is describing about where this is heading is something I want to name directly. The trying is not going to win. The love is going to find its expression. Not because this person has decided to let it, although I believe they are approaching the specific internal threshold where that decision becomes inevitable, but because something that has failed to be buried as many times as this particular feeling has failed to be buried, has simply demonstrated through the accumulated weight of its own persistence that it is not going to stay buried. What the fifth card is showing me is the specific quality of what exists on the other side of the trying finally stopping, of this person arriving at the place where the energy of management is redirected into the energy of expression, of the cup that keeps surfacing being finally, fully, directly extended in the direction it has always been pointing, in your direction. I want to speak to something about the specific quality of what arrives when it arrives in this form. When a love that has been tried against and failed to be buried finally crosses the threshold into actual expression, it arrives with a particular quality of completeness, not the tentative, partially committed, still managing some of it arrival of something that has been slowly and gradually revealed. The comprehensive, all at once, I cannot continue to not say this quality of something that has been held back for so long that when it finally comes, it comes with everything that has been accumulating during the holding. The expression, when it finally arrives, will carry the full weight of every time it was not expressed. That compressed quality is part of what makes these particular arrivals feel larger and more significant than ordinary expressions of feeling. They are not only what is being said in the moment, they are everything that was not said in all the preceding moments, finally finding its voice simultaneously. Before I close, I want to say something about what you should do with the knowledge that this reading has provided, because I think Virgo's particular nature creates a specific temptation in exactly this kind of moment. The temptation is to now begin watching for signs of the failing management, to pay closer attention to the moments where the love breaks through, the trying, to catalog them, to build the case more thoroughly than you perhaps had before, to use this information as permission to analyze the dynamic more intensively than you have been. I want to offer a gentler orientation. What you have received today is confirmation of something that you have been picking up on at the level of genuine intuition, in the specific peripheral body level way that your attentiveness tends to register things before your conscious mind has caught up. That confirmation is complete. The case is built. You do not need more evidence. What you might instead consider doing is simply allowing yourself to be present to what is there between you and this person without the analytical overlay. To let what is real be real, without either reaching toward it aggressively or holding it at a careful distance. To trust what you know and allow the situation to continue unfolding at the pace it is unfolding at, which is the pace of someone who is running out of reasons to keep trying to bury what is simply too large and too genuine to stay buried. The arrival is coming. You do not have to rush it. I also want to name something about what kind of presence is most useful for you to bring to the period between now and when the expression finally arrives. The most useful thing is not intensified attention to the other person's behavior and what it is signaling. The most useful thing is simply continuing to be who you are, with the fullness and the authenticity and the genuine presence that made burying this particular love so structurally impossible in the first place. You don't need to do anything to call this forward. It is already coming on its own. What you can do is be the genuine, fully present version of yourself when it arrives, which will allow it to land in the most complete and most real way possible. If this reading landed somewhere specific for you, if the feeling of someone's love for you surfacing repeatedly, despite what appears to be genuine effort to contain it, is something you have been noticing in the actual texture of a real dynamic, please share it with a Virgo who might be in the same situation and who needs to hear that what they are sensing is accurate, and leave a comment. I want to hear who this brings up for you and what the specific texture of the surfacing has looked like in your actual experience of this person. I read every single comment, and I hold what is shared in this space with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo. They have tried. The trying has not worked. It is not going to work, because what they feel for you lives at a level where trying simply cannot reach. And the love that lives there is, in the end, going to surface completely in the direction it has always been pointing, which is you.